Hello, everybody. Almost was a little bit late. Tonight I'm going to talk about things I don't normally talk about, which is public policy and the ObamaCare situation, Affordable Care Act, and the trauma in the Capitol and what's happening up there. Just some commentary to bring some explanation, because what I blogged about it yesterday and today got almost 10,000 views and responses. So evidently it's a subject that has some appeal. So, but I'll get to that in a minute. I need to make a couple of announcements, and I'm going to tap. I'm constantly tapping, constantly questioning, constantly trying to get you to expand your consciousness and rethink, or to ask yourself repeatedly what you believe, why you believe it, how those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of your life. Is your life a life of quality, not just quantity, filled with things, busyness? I was saying the other day that I think, and this is important. I was saying it to a group of prophets. Bishop Jordan was in town. In fact, I said this last night. Most of us have learned how to manage our pain. We know how to manage and negotiate and navigate mediocrity, lack, hurt, disillusionment, disenchantment. In fact, we become so good at it, we've actually become masters at management. But we don't know how to master or manage mastery. We manage pain, but we don't master it. We manage mediocrity, but we don't overcome it. We manage lack. We navigate well storms, but when do we ever get out of them? When do we ever stop hurting or stop quaking with pain? Or have we conditioned our mind to think that painless living is impossible? I know that pain is constant in many of our areas, but there ought to be breaks. I mean, long periods of break. Long periods of lack of anxiety, of nervousness, of tension, of restlessness, of anger. But we have basically gotten used to managing our anger and our unforgiveness and our lack of evolution and lack of conclusion. We're actually experts at managing confusion. And we never graduate to mastery, except to manage master managing managing the pain. So I want to get past that. So keep that in mind tonight. Even in our country, as we go through all these different models and modalities that are very crippling to the culture. Let me mention first that you still have time to register for the Fall Summit. Right here, the Leadership Summit in Chicago, October the 14th through the 16th, 2013. The early registration fees has been extended through the summit dates, all the way up to the very end for the 3-day summit. $149 is what we charge for the registration. That takes care of the 2 continental breakfasts and 2 lunches. One is a major lunch, a luncheon that we have on the last day of the conference. It's at the Congress Plaza Hotel. The room rates are $179, extended till now October 8th, and that's for double occupancy in most cases. That's the Fall Leadership Conference at the Congress Hotel, 520 South Michigan Avenue, Chicago, Illinois. Register at www.bishoppearson.com, bishoppearson.com, or for more information, you can ask questions about it at cdp@bishoppearson.com. CDP, that's for Carlton Demetrius Pearson, my name, cdp@bishoppearson.com, or you can call 312-546-3045. That's 312-546-3045. This coming Sunday, I'm going to be at Spirited Truth Sanctuary at 2915 Midway Road in Decatur, Georgia. That's just outside of Atlanta. So I'm an old-time gospel concert at 2 o'clock in the afternoon from like 2 to 3 as the church celebrates its anniversary under Pastor D.E. Polk, Donald Earl Polk. And then Sunday morning, my friend Nicholas O'Rourke will be in the 8 o'clock or 8:30 service, and I'll be speaking at the 11 o'clock service as we have this wonderful anniversary for the new Spirit and Truth Church with D.E. Polk. Clarice Polk and I will be putting on the concert just a couple of hours in the afternoon. We're going to be going door to door, advertising the church and letting people know that they have worship there. I want to be a part of that, as I've been a part of that church for many, many years. And then next Monday, October 7th at 1 p.m., and it's open to the public, I'll be at the International Theological Center, that's called ITC, 700 Martin Luther King Drive in Southwest Atlanta. That's 1 o'clock for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I'll give a lecture, then there'll be question and answer. I'll have books and products there, books. The God is Not a Christian book, and the Gospel of Inclusion. If you haven't heard this, you live in the Atlanta area, get the word out. And I'd love to see you in the afternoon if you have that time available, or Sunday morning at Spirit and Truth Sanctuary there at 2915 Midway Road, Decatur, Georgia. All right, don't forget the summit. And then those of you who are interested, and we're getting more and more interested in the trip to Israel this coming in 2014, October of 2014. Got a couple calls from California today, from Florida. People are gathering up their money. You can go to the site, bishoppearson.com, and push the Israel tour, the first radically inclusive peace tour that I've ever heard of, and that my host, Ron Wexler, who's actually one of the consultants to the president there, to the prime minister, I should say, of Israel. He is hosting this with us, and we're going to visit Christian, Muslim, Jewish holy sites, as well as Druids, and then up in Haifa, up north of Jerusalem, to the Baha'i Faith World Temple. It's just an immaculate place that you want to see. We'll have panel discussions every night, and those of you in leadership, for every 5 people you bring, you'll get a free trip over there, or the equivalent of some income toward that for your ministry or your organization. Go to the site and learn more about it. And we're going to actually, on Jerusalem and Holy Mountain, we're going to sign a declaration of peace, world peace, and inclusion, radical inclusion. And it's going to be a historic time and moment for all of us. And I certainly invite you to come along. This will be probably my 12th or 13th trip to Israel. And I know the ins and outs, and I have friends who do, and we're going to have a great, great time. All right, let's talk about ObamaCare. Should it be ObamaScare? Why is there trouble in the Capitol? Paul Bengala of CNN said this today. I thought it was pretty interesting. As a matter of rhetoric and positioning, President Obama would be better served to state his position this way, and I sort of agree with this. I will gladly listen to any idea to improve the Affordable Care Act or reduce the deficit or any other ideas my Republican friends might have, but first we have to avoid default. That means paying the bills that Congress has already incurred. Once we've done that, we can negotiate anything. Negotiations on public policy comes only after the nation avoids default, which we haven't. We've already shut down. Default means failure to satisfy the terms of a loan obligation, or to failure to pay back a loan or to pay a bill. This country, the most powerful and supposedly the most rich in the world, should not be shutting down and defaulting on its bills and its loans and on its people. This is unheard of. Well, it's not unheard of. Actually, it's happened, I think, 17 times since 1977. The last time was 17 years ago when President Clinton was in office and the GOP held the country hostage, the economy hostage, the same way they're doing it now by refusing to cooperate with the president. Each time that has happened, the president has won again, and it's come along just fine. But this partisan politics that we experience in this country, in our capital, and the word capital comes from the Greek word for head, kephale, which comes from the Greek word kapto, where we get the word captain, or cap, or capital. The head represents the head. The word head usually comprises, as you know, the brain, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, each of which aid in various sensory functions, or the chief sensory organs, the brain. That's all in the head. Sight, hearing, smell, taste. Humans have the largest head size relative to the body size of any species, which means that that's why we're considered to be extraordinarily intelligent beings, more intelligent than any other animal, because of the size of our brains. And thus we have the large heads, which should make us a lot more clearer and pronounced and sound and sober in our thinking. Jesus said, it's recorded to have said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Now, a house divided within itself can, but a house divided against itself cannot stand. I understand there's always going to be divisions. There's always going to be different opinions and different ways to look at things, different ways of seeing, different ways of being within a house or within a head. But when your head is against itself, when you're divided against yourself, then you're schizophrenic. Then you have some real problems. We have a kind of a schizophrenic government right now. And it's embarrassing. The whole world is watching what's happening. And so I thought it important for us to talk about it tonight, because this also is reflective in religion and religions all over the planet. There's so much controversy, and there's so much confusion, there's so much argument around God and what God likes or doesn't like, and who models, I call it, the word penance or repentance or penitence or penitentiary has to do with rethinking. You go to the pen to repent. Well, all these religions and denominations have their models of penance. And I call it penance envy. The Methodists, the Baptists, the Pentecostals, the Catholics, the Jews, the Gentiles, the Orthodox, the Muslims. Everybody has their penance, their system and their moral code and their ways of being is the best one that satisfies this supposedly angry God or this difficult God. I'm trying to get around all of that and get away from that, dismissing this whole concept of a God. Many of those opposing Obama and ObamaCare, or even the Democratic Party, are people who oppose it ultimately on religious lines. The whole Tea Party, the conservative values mindset. And I understand all that. And I appreciate certain aspects of it. But to be so divisive and so militant about it, till you divide a country, that's not good. There's some head problems. There's problems in the Capitol. Now, according to the Congressional Research Service, there have been 17 government shutdowns since 1977. The last one, as I told you earlier, was 17 years ago during the Clinton administration. Now, most people don't know that Obamacare and Affordable Care are two names for the same law. I posted this and got almost 10,000 responses or more. There was like 100 shares. People got really involved in this. Public ignorance, and get this, public ignorance is one of the greatest threats and hindrances to social and spiritual progress in our country and probably around the world. Mass ignorance. As long as you keep the masses dumb or ignorant or unaware, silent, influential, impressionable through the media and these strong political voices, you can control the country. And this is not just in America. This is all over the world. There's always a small group of people who are very powerful, usually politicians, that keep the people in ignorance. A recent NBC poll found out that more Americans oppose Obamacare than oppose Affordable Care. But they're the same thing. Most Americans support Obamacare than the Affordable Care Act. Let me say that again. A recent NBC's poll found out that more Americans oppose Obamacare than oppose Affordable Care. Now, they're the same thing, but folks don't know it. Obviously, there's some significant confusion out there. The name Obama triggers varying responses, pro and con. The media drives the responses that they're told to aim for. That media is so powerful, and they say whatever they want to say, and you assume because they are the media and they are saying it, that it's accurate or true or right. Accuracy doesn't mean it's right. Truth doesn't mean it's right. And so-called right doesn't mean it's right, or that it's best, I should say. A Harris poll for the American Bar Association, this was back in 2005, found that 22% of respondents thought the three branches of government were Democratic, Republican, and Independent. Not executive, military, and congressional. It's illegal. It's amazing. 2/3 of Americans couldn't name a single sitting Supreme Court justice in 2003, and fewer than 1% could name all 9. We're just not that into it. Our leaders know the masses of people are unaware, and for the most part, they know that the masses are unconcerned, except when they feel a privilege that they are used to is being taken from them. We don't know. We don't care. In mass. Now, I do a lot of reading. Of course, you're aware of that. I love to watch the news and read newspapers and periodicals and stuff like that. In addition to all my other books, I keep half a dozen to 8 or 10 books going simultaneously. I read under inspiration. I might read a few chapters and put a book down, pick up another one and read it. And this has been happening for the last 30 years or so in my life. But I love reading. Now you can find so much on the internet. You can find so much on the History Channel, and you can find so much, all over television. There's knowledge is everywhere. There's no reason to be out of sorts. Sometimes the Jimmy Kimmel show or Jay Leno does what is it called? Jaywalking, and he goes out on the street, or Kimmel will go on Hollywood Boulevard, and I've been there many, many times, and ask people questions about current events, and most of them just make up an answer. They will actually ask a question about something that hasn't even happened, that hasn't even occurred. They'll make up something, and the people will talk about it as if they're experts on it. They lie on the spot, spontaneous, random lying, Americans. And then the ignorance. Oh my gosh. They don't know their senators, their congressmen, they don't know their mayors, they don't know their aldermen, their councilmen. Some of them don't know the name of the vice president or the name of or like I said, not even one name of the Supreme Court justice. I'm amazed. They don't know history. They don't know the first president or the 16th president. Those two usually are, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They don't know who signed the Emancipation Proclamation. They don't know what the Declaration of Independence is. And they've all gone through school. So we have some real issues in our country. There's a lethargy out there. And I would say this is both spiritual, and many of the politicians who swear to protect and support the Constitution have never read it and don't intend to. It's like a lot of preachers in the pulpit. Have never read the Bible except a few scriptures occasionally, the same basic ones. Stay in the same category of teaching. Most never read the entire book because a lot of it's boring, to be honest. I've read it more than once. And a lot of that stuff is just, oh my God, where did this come from? Is this the Word of God? There's no inspired nothing. Talk about the inspired Word of God. Some of this, it has no inspiration whatsoever. I'm so bored. In fact, I tell people that if you really want a good tranquilizer, you don't need to pop a sleeping pill. Read the Bible. It'll put you straight to sleep. You should read the Bible under inspiration, not just for information, but under inspiration, or you will flatline. Try it. Those of you who've never tried it, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you try it, you'll know. Certain aspects of the Bible, of course, not all of it. Getting back to the subject of Obamacare or ObamaScare, Charles M. Bow of the New York Times wrote this yesterday, and I thought it was interesting. Is the drive to destroy the legacy of one president worth endangering the health of the nation? Around the last time the Republicans held the economy hostage over raising the debt ceiling in 2011, the Pew Research Center found that only 18% of Americans said they understood very well the implications of not raising the limit. Congressional Republicans are banking on that confusion. They know people don't know what Obamacare even stands for or Affordable Care. They don't even know they're the same law. They don't know what the debt ceiling is, raising it or lowering it. They don't know what pork in the different, or what a line item veto would actually mean, or what a veto actually means. They don't know the operations of Congress. Some of the young congressmen who come in there as freshmen have to learn what all that stuff is. So the congressional Republicans know, and Democrats know this as well. Congress knows it, but at this particular time, they're making Obamacare, Obama's and they did this to Clinton too, and I was part of all that, some of those days of that fundamental fear-based theology. And he's the Antichrist, and he's the end-time false prophet along with me, and people like me, and Oprah's the new age guru that's going to take everybody to hell. And oh my God, these fear-based theologies have these people panicking, having nervous breakdowns because of fear. As Scripture said, men's hearts would fail them because of fear. So the Republicans just might use Americans concerned about the economy to destroy the economy, according to Charles Bowell of the New York Times. The Republicans just might use Americans' concerns about the economy to destroy the economy. Now, I say the Republicans because the GOP is blocking this. They made a declaration that this should be a one-term president. That was their number one priority. Of course, that failed, and he's in a second term. But I remember back when Clinton was president, and the fundamentalists and the religious right my God, they fought him and Hillary tooth and nail. I lived in Oklahoma at the time. I remember the stories that came out of Arkansas and across the media about horrible things they would say about these two human beings. Now, strangely enough, and ironically, they're two of the most popular two human beings on the planet today. So that shows you can recover from whatever media mess is out there. But there's a lot for us to learn about all that. Now, regardless of partisan politics, this is a huge problem and a growing one, this confusion, this ignorance of the masses, often manipulated by these spinmeisters who represent various opposing factors within the country, and they're determined to keep us divided. Granted, some politicians have genuine concern for the betterment of the American people, but I would estimate that 80% are driven by ego, testosterone, votes, and financial support. These big financial support for companies and corporations and organizations are manipulating and sometimes bullying congressmen and women to do what they want. If somebody gives you a lot of money, you have to listen to them. You've got to give them an audience every time they come to Washington. You've got to, wine them and dine them so they'll give you money the next time. Congress is run very often by money, large donors, corporations, organizations. In fact, it's gotten out of hand. It's almost like you can't make president of the United States unless you're a billionaire. That's scary. Sounds a lot like ministry these days. Both politicians and preachers can be scary and a scary mix. Believe me, I know both. I've experienced both. I understand those motives. I understand the motifs of money and manipulation and a bully pulpit and voice and what you can say. I'm doing it right now. Anybody can do this and get an audience eventually, a global audience. So people are taking the liberty to do that. They call it viral. Things go viral when thousands and millions of people then begin to listen to what you're saying. Now, speaking truth to power, or speaking truthful or powerful truth, is not always properly appreciated and awarded or rewarded. Speaking truth to power or speaking powerful truth is not always properly appreciated or rewarded. The masses like to follow the masses, and often the messes that are out there. People love to see a train wreck. They'll stop. The reason traffic slows down so much when there's an accident is because every car, if there's 10,000 or 100,000 cars, every one of them takes a glance, 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or minute glance, looking as they drive. Well, if 10,000 cars or 20,000 cars does that, that's why it gets back to miles and miles and miles. It's almost impossible for you to just keep your eyes on the road and drive past an accident. You want to see how bad it is, or see who got hit. You see the flashing lights and all that stuff. Media can do that. They can make it seem like a train wreck, a crash, the flashing lights, flashing news bulletins. Suddenly everything stops, and we're watching for that, listening for it constantly. It's part of the knee-jerk reactions that we have as a culture. Too many thugs running for office and winning, and then whining. They win and then they whine. American politics is becoming a joke around the world. The world's watching us. We must live, think, and vote on higher principles, those that embrace the betterment of humankind. We must live, think, and vote on highest principles and from highest principles. And the voting public must wake up and stop being so blatantly manipulated by slick-acting, fast-talking politicians who don't have our best interests at heart, only theirs. They're supposed to serve the people. It's government of the people, for the people, by the people. Eleanor Roosevelt said, great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. When you're personality driven, or you're out to stop a politician or even to promote a politician, I understand that's not, or a preacher, or some celebrity. That's common, that'll never go away. But the smallest minds do that. You must discuss ideas, not just ideologies. Ideas that can change humanity, that not just make a difference in the world, but make a different world, or make the world different. I think that's what many of our presidents want of late. I think all politicians probably start out that way, just like ministers. We start out with a pure heart, and we're humble, and we're fast, and we want to help change the world. And then we start getting a little power, a little influence, goes to our head. The ego's there. The testosterone is driven. There's women and money and sex and ego and so much out there. And then we get corrupted, and it just happens over and over and over again, and we don't seem to get it. So America is an idea, a great idea, a remarkable one, without question. Don't take the idea or the ideology for granted. Give it the kind of attention and positive and constructive consciousness that it deserves. Know what's happening in your country. Watch the news. I know you don't want to take a steady diet of it, but know what's happening. What we think about, we bring about. Corporate and or collective consciousness is powerful. It's creative. It's inventive. Let's use it with intention and create the America and the world that we desire. Posted that this week, portions of it, and people responded beautifully. Most of the responses we get are positive to anything we say, because people are beginning to think outside the box, as we do. And I'm trying to encourage people to rethink and to reconsider what they believe and why they believe it. ObamaCare shouldn't be ObamaScare. Put that one out there this morning as well. So many people rushed to sign up for the new ObamaCare Affordable Care opportunity that the system crashed. If, as the GOP says, the people don't want it, you certainly cannot tell by the millions who rushed to file for it. Most of them for the first time as Americans. They wanted insurance. They wanted affordable health care. Speaker of the House keeps saying the people don't want it. The people are not. Well, why are they crashing the system, trying to get on? Sure, it's a lot of red tape, a lot of reading, and most folks, even intelligent, bright people, have to have some assistance because you read through all that stuff. It's like, ooh, this is Greek to me. Obamacare should not be ObamaScare. How can the possibility of tens of millions of Americans, including impoverished children, seniors, and many very sick people who were and are presently uninsured and desperately in need of health care, and who are more likely to be insured over the next couple of years with this Obamacare, be bad for the country? Now, mind you, it needs to be tweaked. There's a lot of things about it that need to be worked and walked through. But the clock and the calendar can prove, approve, disprove, or improve anything. This is new. Sure, there's going to be some wrinkles and kinks in it that we need to iron out. It's going to take some time to do that. But let's don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's at least start. The relief of pressures, yes, it's affecting business people. I know what that's like. I remember having a payroll of $100,000 a month when I was in full-time pastoring. And I insured my people at one time when we first started, because there was a small group of us. I insured them 100% dental and health care. I was single. Most of my folk were married with children. I was concerned about the young families coming up. This is 35 years ago. And I didn't care. I wanted everybody secure. We were all starting out just out of college, and so I was a bit generous. That got pretty hefty over the years, and I had to start having them pay a little bit of their own. But I understand any businessman's position on that matter. Myths, misunderstandings, and outright deception still abound about this brand new health care law, which, of course, still has many wrinkles and kinks to iron out and to work through, as new programs and projects and projections do and will. This can surely be fixed without shutting down the government, though, causing so much misfortune and confusion and unnecessary panic and fear. Holding the economy hostage because I'm going to get my way, I'm going to take my toys and go home. That's what we're seeing in Washington among the elected officials. fathers and husbands and business and corporate executives, smart men, lawyers. Many of these congressmen are attorneys, well-trained, Yale, Harvard, Ivy League school graduates. Look what they're doing. In the name of what? If we as a nation can allocate tens of billions of dollars to fight any war that happens to pop up and is perceived to be a threat to our nation, why can't those same dollars be approved by Congress to provide responsible health care for our citizens, as is done quite successfully in other countries, including Canada and Great Britain? And I've been in both countries and have friends who live there now. And it's not a perfect system, but they take care of their citizenry. If it's working and has worked in these other countries, why, after we wade and weed through, the initial challenges, can't and won't affordable health care work in this country if it's important to us enough to make it work? Now, again, speaking truth to power, speaking truth about power is testy and critical. Many are suspicious right now, I know I am, of a Republican-controlled House of Representatives whose leadership stated that their number one priority was to make sure President Obama would be a one-term president, something obviously the nation en masse said no to because he was elected almost on a landslide win. And the Republicans were stunned. They had no idea. Governor Romney was shocked. And people like Karl Rove was stunned. Even Karl Rove begged the Republican Party not to allow the country to be shut down, the government to be shut down. Karl Rove, they're the one who sort of is the architect of the Republican agenda, has raised hundreds of millions of dollars and then lost. So it's questionable. It's suspicious to me that this particular party doesn't want. They so much want to see one presidential legacy fall that they'll play these games. I think the next election is going to show them a lot, as this last one did. Not only Americans, but people across the world are noticing the obvious, as well as making fun of the vicious partisan politics being played in Washington by our elected officials. Members of the House of Representatives are elected to do just that, represent the wishes of their constituents. The people want affordable health care. Why wouldn't they? We expect our elected officers or officials to work out a deal that's both practical and feasible and get it done right away without shutting down the government, which they've already done. Very irresponsible. That's their job. That's why we send them to Capitol Hill. I see passion on both sides, but not as much compassion. And this concerns me enough to bring it up tonight, to actually discuss it. I don't deal with a lot, as I said, politics. I've been in and around healing ministries, though, for over 42 years, and I'm acutely sensitive to sick and suffering humanity. That's why I felt like I had to say something. For those of you who knew of Oral Roberts, who was I called him the Pope of Pentecost. I worked with him for 42 years. He was my mentor. I love him. I miss him. He was literally like a father to me, a most pronounced father. Really, I was one of tens of thousands of students who went through that university. I was one of a handful that had direct access to him, could go up to the house and sit at the table and eat beans with Evelyn or swim in their pool, take him to get his hair cut. Even after he left ORU, was the chancellor and lived in California, I would go out there and spend the night at the house. And we'd spend hours right there in the little condo off the golf course there in Newport Beach, where Richard now lives, just chatting scripture, going to dinner. I loved it. I loved them. And I was beside him when he laid hands on people. And he's known to have laid his hands on at least 1 million people in his lifetime. We built a $250 million hospital, which was not a success, but we got it up. And we didn't get to finish the project, which is something he took to his grave, and I know it grieved him. Blending the two streams of healing of prayer and medicine. That was his objective with the City of Faith. So, of course I'm concerned. Surely America, the richest and supposedly most powerful country in the world, can find a way to provide affordable health for all of its people, especially its tax-paying citizens. Nobody should be suffering the way I know people are, having been in the ministry all of these years. People are hurting. People are traumatized. There's people right now they haven't even gotten, they don't know how to fill out the information and go to the site and use the computer. So there's some assistance out there. Some insurance companies are actually helping, because there are people who are dying as we speak, and they're afraid to go to emergency, or when they go to emergency. I remember my grandmother, we were poor. We took her stomach had literally burst. She had to go to the county hospital to emergency, and on a whole hard gurney and cold. My little grandmother was. She died just a few weeks after that. And they sat her in emergency for hours, all day long. My parents and others didn't have sense enough to find another way to address it, but she had no insurance. And her stomach, literally, the cancer had eaten a hole in her stomach, and one day it burst. I had seen her just before Christmas, kissed her, and that was my last time seeing her alive. I could smell the foul stench of her decaying stomach on her breath when I kissed her. And I was only 10 years old. I remember smelling her breath. And her stomach burst later that night, and they rushed her to the hospital. And because we didn't have insurance, she sat in the emergency for, I think, something like 10 hours. And this was in 1964. Race relations were different. I remember crying as much about that as her actually dying. It grieved me. I knew as a 10-year-old boy that was not right, it was not fair, it wasn't American. And I would have said at the time it wasn't Christian. But it happened. And they were rude and indifferent and cold to her. To this day, that's a haunting thought to my mind. And so this sort of brought that back up to me. Politics, policy, police, politeness, and polity, those words all come from the word polis, which means citizen or citizenry. As used in words like metropolis or cosmopolitan. It's about politeness and polity. Police, polite, politic, policy. I think many of the politicians have forgotten. They put politics over politeness, given politics precedence over politeness towards the polis, or towards the people, or the citizenry. And I have great concern about that. Headship and leadership and conflict resolution. People are going through this in their minds, are going through this in their marriages, going through this in their family. Because we're not healthy. There's a lot of people that are suffering from mental illness. And a lot of them are in the pulpits. Mentally ill folks from the pulpits on. Preachers can be just as mentally ill and misleading folk and misguiding people and intimidating people. And they're thundering out their messages, and they're insane. The Catholic Church is experiencing that. All churches are experiencing that. Religion is really being shaken. We're trying to keep it quiet and keep it dignified, but it's just bursting at the seams. This thing is coming loose. And it's supposed to come loose, not just because it's all bad. It's just a different day. There's different models and modalities that are coming into being, and people are awakening to them. And they're saying, I don't want it as it has been. It's not going to be business as usual. We've got to find a new way of thinking and being and seeing and creating and recreating. You see, we're not only created beings, we're creative beings. And, as you've heard me say before, many of you, we are creating beings. We are creating things in our country right now. The lady that was arrested today and killed with her little baby in the car in Washington, D.C., because it appeared she was trying to ram the gates to the White House with her car. She had about a 1-year-old baby in the car with her. And the Capitol Police, who were not being paid today because they're in government payroll and the government shut down, yet they were at their post of duty. Who knows what would have happened had they not been there. And that same Congress that shut this country down were protected by the Capitol Police from that lady. Who knows what she would have done. Deranged. She's got her baby in the car. Why wouldn't she take the baby by the grandmothers, the godmothers? She had lost her mind, evidently. It was insane. You saw the situation with the motorcycles in New York. The motorcyclists. and how the guy pulls in front of this car with a gentleman, his wife, and his little girl, and slows down so the guy accidentally bumped the back of the motorcycle. Then all of them stopped and surrounded him. People are intimidated by motorcyclists. They have a certain image anyway. It's almost like, it's a little bit like racial profiling. When you see somebody coming on a motorcycle, especially if they have shirtless, sleeveless shirts on and hoods, and they got black leather or something, you just get scared. And we think that was really cool, but now it's a bit intimidating. Anyway, I don't know very many men who wouldn't have done something similar. I'm not saying it's right, but would have just hit the gas and just rushed your wife and child out of there. Never go home. Go to a police station or even a hospital when something like that happens, where you'll be protected, you'll be seen. It's just, there's a lot of anger out here. This particular situation right now, based on the way people perceive the media, will cause big fights in homes tonight. Big squabbles. Little old senior people who can't read all these, the red tape and all these lines, and I have to have reading glasses now to read. My words are a lot larger. I can imagine an older person. I'm a senior citizen. I hate to mention that, but I'm 60 years old, and you start getting your AARP at 50. So I know what it is to start seeing my hands. My dad is 87. He has congestive heart failure. And he's been in and out of the hospital the last 2 weeks, more than in his entire 87 years. He had 5 bypasses. He's had prostate cancer, which is now, they're telling us, moved into his lungs. And my sisters and me and my brother, we were all there last week for several days. 2 of the sisters are still there. They'll be there till Sunday. Then the other 2 are coming in. We have to take care of our father. No one in our immediate family has transitioned. And it looks like our father has, at 87, it's only just a matter of time anyway. In most cases. But he's weak. He's down to like 123 pounds. He's just a little guy. And I look just like my dad. When I look in the mirror, it startles me. That's been happening now for the last 25 years. And it's startling how much like my dad and I are extremely close. We were not close before I left home to go to college in 1971. But then they moved here in 1978. Eventually my dad was on my payroll. He worked for me. Walked through every building that I've ever bought. And he's responsible for the 15 acres to the south of the church I had in Tulsa. The man was hostile toward Christians and religious folk. My dad is a real warm, humble, sweet man. He befriended the owner of that property, and they sold it to us, and we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars because of my father, which we built a parking lot and a home for unwed mothers and another place for a counseling center and a pond. That was all my dad's doing. And now, that little man, he's going to turn 87 October 29th on my daughter's 17th birthday. She was born on his 70th. And this may be the last one we have with him. I'm sort of preparing myself. One of my sisters was just in grief today crying about this. And we all have our moments, He could live 10 more years, but that's unlikely, So we're just this is a transition, and there's a lot of head stuff. But I thank God that he has insurance. He's a veteran. Sometimes he would drive himself all the way to Muskogee, 2.5 hours, or 2 hours from where he lives, an hour and a half something, to by himself. My dad. The thing that bothers me the most about being in Tulsa is their house was their back door 15 minutes from my door for 30 years, and now that I'm in Chicago, it isn't. So that's something that I struggle with. But I go back and forth. I can drive. It takes about 11 hours. But there's a lot of anger. People are going through shifts and changes. And at this stage and age of life, you have to be prepared. Just heard that Chuck Smith, one of the great charismatic religious leaders over the last probably 45 or 50 years, you've heard the Maranatha Ministries. I think that was what they were called. Anyway, he was one of the great leaders. He transitioned today. And one of the commanding figures, Oral Roberts, is gone. Billy Graham is 94, and you don't hear much about him. The church I came to pastor here, its founder is probably about 96, going on 97, Johnny Coleman. She's still living. But she's not active at all. The Jerry Falwells are gone. Kenneth Hagin, T.L. Osborne, R.W. Shambach. You may not know all these people, but these are people, ministers around which I grew up. and all of whom I had personal relationships with. And they're leaving. So the world is changing. This is a new age. It really, literally is a new age. Fundamentalists, you can freak out all you want. This is a new age. And Jesus said, "Lo, I'm with you to the end of the age." This is the age of Aquarius. That was the age of Pisces, my birth sign. Jesus said, "I'm with you to the end of that age." What does that mean? He didn't say end of the world. The King James mistranslates the word aeon for cosmos. It doesn't say the end of the cosmos. That's nowhere in the Bible. Nowhere in the Bible does it say end of the cosmos or end of the world. It says end of the aeon or end of the age or eon. You've heard of the eons of time. We've come to the end of an eon. We've entered a new age. And Aquarius is a water and wind sign. Notice all the water, the flooding every day, the tsunamis and the hurricanes and the rising coastlines and the melting glaciers. And Antarctica doesn't even exist anymore the way it once did. Hundreds of miles of ice have melted. So the sea, all the coastline of America over the next 25 years, hundreds of miles thousands of miles around this coastline is going to be covered with water. Places like New York and San Diego, my hometown, right on the bay, Los Angeles, all up the west coast of the United States, up into Oregon, and it really went all the way up to Alaska. Who knows? Strange things are occurring. Different and new things are occurring. We all need to be ready for them. So I'm asking you to rethink. And I think the new thinking, the new age, the moisture, the mysticism, the curiosity, science is evolving and developing everyday new things. The information highway is getting wider and wider. We're learning so much and seeing so much and doing so much. And I have to accept the fact that 20 years from now, I'm going to be 80 years old. Oh, my God. That's not bad. It's just, I ain't supposed to be 80, but I'm going to be. I look at my dad. When I look at my hands, I see my father's hands. The little knuckles, from arthritis, how these sink a little bit in your hand, gets a little. We used to make fun of my grandmother, my grandfather, my great when they had hands like that. And I better be careful, and you too. My dad used to make fun. I was looking at his hands the other day. I hold them and just stroke them and kiss them. I love my father. And my mother, who also has congestive heart failure, is going to be 84, 5 days after my dad turns 87. And she has the platelets in her blood are so low they can't even do work to check on her heart arteries, where it seems like some of them are clogged. She's operating off about 35% of her heart. Not all the oxygen is getting to her brain. Sometimes she repeats herself. She gets tired easily. She gets winded. She has to go lay down. That's my mom. We've had her all these years, and our whole family is trying to deal with this shift, this transition, as responsibly and emotionally as stable as we can. Few families of 6 children or more. We had 7. The first one died, but we never knew her. We all came after her, Caroline. Few families have all 6 kids and parents well into their 80s. Actually, hundreds do, maybe thousands, but comparatively. There's nobody in our immediate family ever made a transition. So when that happens, our grandparents, sure, most of the godparents except for my godmother, she's 89. So, and I want them to have proper health care. And I don't want them to ever live in a nursing home if we can avoid that. We won't allow that, but I want them to have the proper care. And not only health care, but family care. Love, kiss, hold. Even if they repeat themselves, let them repeat. Don't be impatient. Don't be overly protective. Let them walk, even if they're stooped and struggling. Kind of let them walk. Don't make them invalids before they're invalids. These are things you have to remember to do with aging parents and aging people. And I'm learning a lot and very sensitive to the fact that my world is changing and government has changed. The fact that we have an Obama in the White House. I'm not a racist. I know that racism exists, and as long as there are racists, there's going to be racism. But Obama, even being there, he can't do everything he wants to do, because once you get into the White House, you owe a lot of people. And there are spin meisters, and there are people who are control freaks, and they have influence, and you have councils and executive branches, executive council, and I forget the term of the men that are right around you, women that are right around you. I used to have one. I forgot the name. But you do. You have these inner groups and conclaves that influence you. Your mama influences you. Your wife or spouse or partner influences your children, influence you. So there's a lot out there. And so you always pray for whoever's in those high offices around the world, particularly here in America. All right, I don't have to spend the whole time. I wish I could do a Q&A right now or have responses from you. Eventually, we will evolve to where we can do that, have these conversations. We're going to do that at the summit that starts just in a couple of 3 weeks, October 14th through the 16th, right here at the Congress Hotel, just right down the street, across from the beautiful Grant Park. You can actually see the Buckingham Palace from the Francis Room that we will use. We're only expecting maybe 40 or 50 men and women that will come. Small, very laid back, casual thing, interaction, interfacing, talking. I'm going to have time up close and personal with all of you. And we're going to affirm one another. And a lot of the time will just be spent discussing and talking about history and talking about relating faith to culture and talking about the new normal and the new paradigm, what it means, how long will it last, how do we respond to it, how do we remain relevant as a community of faith and as faith leaders. We'll talk about very delicate, critical issues like the marriage equality. What are we going to do with homosexuality and homosexuals in the church? How do you handle that? What about people who marry more than once? What about divorce? What about celibacy? I'm talking about the Catholic Church a little bit. Most celibate folks ain't celibate. It's not natural. It's not even normal. How do you deal with the human appetites? We'll deal with thinking and eating and discipline and diet and how to deal with conflict resolution and personnel conflicts and problems within marriages, the arguments and the tensions and the disagreements. Preachers and leaders and laity, we're all going to come together. We're all going to, and if the numbers get larger and there are people calling every day registering, so it could get larger than we think, but I was hoping it would remain sort of small, and so we could interact, and I'll present the Israel thing, and we'll decide how we're going to navigate this Metacostal expression. And I say that because so many Pentecostals, not all Pentecostals, but so many Pentecostals from the fundamentalist Pentecostal roots are looking and leaning toward expanded consciousness. I hear from them every day. Some of the most intelligent, well-educated, articulate, some of them are academicians. Some of them aren't, but they're deeply spiritual people, and they're very aware. And they realize they're stagnating. They've come to a standstill. They're ready to move to the next level. They don't want to atrophy. They've mastered preaching and reaching their group and satisfying them. Now the preachers themselves are bored. And they're not really growing. They're just getting fat. What do we do about this? I had to go through this. I've been going through this for 12 years. That's why I'm no longer pastoring as I once did. It wasn't a choice. I didn't want to lose my church, my property, and all those precious people in Tulsa. I never expected to. I thought they would have stayed with me, kind of flowed with me. At least, 2,000 or 3,000. We got down to about 1,200 who still said they were members, but only maybe 300 were actually coming. That was discouraging to me. Of course, it deflated my ego. It hurt my feelings. It broke my heart. I know what navigating through that kind of pain. You can't teach what you don't know or lead where you don't go. I know what all that's like. I'm still smarting from some of those wounds, but I'm healing. And I was so busy looking at where I was going, I was looking at the prize. So I didn't pay as much attention to the price. I'm still feeling what it is to not have access to the kinds of funds and staff. And, I have to work harder than I've ever worked. And earn some income. That's why it's important for me, and my family and the ministry and the staff we have, the small staff we have here, that you support us. That's why every time I end the program, I say, please do something. I would have thought hundreds of you would have been sending something. I'm surprised that so far so few do. Now, you might buy something if I sell it, and I haven't actually started that yet, but if you really believe that what I'm saying is important, literally tens of thousands respond. They respond to things I say. They love it. They say, keep talking, Bishop. Stay with it. We love what you say. You make so much sense. But then I don't hear from you as far as $10 or $20. Some of you can afford that a week, not just a month. Some of you can actually afford. If you go to church every Sunday, you put $25 or $10 or whatever. Some of you are not even going to church. You used to tithe, but you don't tithe. I don't encourage people to tithe to break a curse, because I believe we've been redeemed from any curse of the law. But we tithe to honor a covenant. If you're bonding with what I'm saying, the message and the movement and the momentum, and you're feeling it, where your heart is, Jesus said, your treasure will be also. So this would be great tonight. Tonight, if you would take your bank card and push that donate button and make the largest donation you possibly can. And for some of you, the largest donation is only 10. Some of you, the largest donation is 100 or 500. Maybe your business, like my friend in South Africa, a business can send a couple thousand or 1,000 or 100 or 500 a month for, a year or so, or maybe 6 months. You make a commitment. You can do that. And I'm only taking the time to tell you this because it's so important. Yesterday I spent time making hospital calls here in the city to people who are members of the church I pastored before. Then I came as an interim senior. And when I hear of them, even though I'm no longer pastor, no longer salary, no longer housing allowance with that group, I still go to hospitals and homes and check them because many of them were senior people. I'm concerned about them. I don't get paid for that. I mean, if money comes in, that would help me live. It help my staff, my assistants, help me pay for the renting of the venue and the things we do and traveling. Even Tulsa, I fly back to Tulsa and do memorial services. I never charge. Sometimes people do give me something or at least pay for my expenses. I stay with friends. I don't take hotels. And sometimes I could do a buddy pass, But there have been several times when I will never say no because I pastored these people for years and I love them. Some of them are not my members. They're just friends, minister friends, pastors and leaders and bishops. And I will go around and support them and eulogize them if I am called to do that. I'm real sentimental when it comes to that kind of thing. I love people. I love you. I thank God for you. I believe in you. I believe in us. I think you do too. Let's keep working on this and see what we can get going. Let's move to the next level and see what's out there for us. Let's start recreating, rethinking, re-imaging or imagining, shifting things, rearranging, embracing the I am of who we are. That will affect government. That will affect ecclesiastical matters like the church. That will affect community. We deal too much with symptoms and not enough with source. We can lay the axe to the root cause of the affliction. Where there's fruit, there's root. Where there's anger, there's root. Where there's pain, there's a reason. We want to help guide you there. Culturally, collectively, personally, and powerfully. Engage, enroll, become active in your own life, your own thoughts. Be more intentional, be more deliberate. Destiny doesn't happen by chance. It actually happens by choice. Nobody has an accident by choice. You have them by chance. So choose your reality. Create it. Embrace the I am. That's Charles Holt singing. One of my favorite singers and songwriters. Great man. Great guy. You are. I'll see you this Sunday, those of you in the Atlanta area at the Spirit and Truth Church with D.E. Paul. Look it up. Look him up. I'll be there 11 o'clock Sunday morning. And I'll be there Saturday afternoon from like 12 to 2 with a little bit of a old gospel concert. I'll do the best I can with what voice is left. With my precious Queen, Clarice Paul. That's Dee's mother. Don's wife. And then I'm at ITC at 1 o'clock, International Training Center there. And it's a conglomerate of Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal seminaries and seminarians. That's Monday at 1 o'clock in Atlanta, okay? Love you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consciousness. Thank you for your support, your treasure, your time, your talent. Hope I see some of you at the summit, the rest of you next year in Israel. A year from now, go to the Israel banner there on the site and get some information about it. Many of you leaders can bring leaders. You can pay your own way by just inviting 5 of your own members to come. You need to see, every Christian at least needs to go to Israel at least once in a lifetime. Every believer, every mystic. Okay? I love you. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your treasure. And course, thank you for your consciousness. Good night now.